It's after 9. So, hey everyone, good evening. This is Kevin. So, I think we can go ahead and start with our session. So, yes, on our last day, we discussed a little bit on the theory part where we discussed what kind of thing we are using our automation and all those requirements for. And we also started discussing about the basic topics that are different types of serialization languages that we use here. So I hope you guys remember this. We were using JSON, YAML, XML. So we just started with our basic topics. If anybody has any doubt, feel free to check the recordings. So from there, we are just going to continue. So in today's session, I will be showing like maybe a little bit part of the lab. But again, number of labs for this particular DevNet is limited. So please don't expect labs on a daily basis. We will be having labs where you'll be given access to the labs where you'll be doing these kinds of stuff, everything. But today's session, since our labs and everything is still on the setting up process, I think most of you might not have given the access. So today I'll be showing the labs, and the same labs we'll be doing on a separate day. Okay, where you will be actually doing a hands-on, and you'll be given access to it as well. So yes, before starting, let me just show you some basic things that you need to know about this particular lab. So in today's session, we will be working with some prerequisites that we actually need to work on our DevNet session. When I'm saying prerequisites, the main thing is that when you're using automation, we have to do a lot of different kinds of automated data, like communication requirements, automated configurations, etc. So for this purpose, we will be storing data in particular formats. So these formats is what we discussed yesterday: JSON, YAML, XML, etc. So what we are going to do is we are going to use programming. That is, in this case, Python. We are going to use Python to basically, let's say, read these files and use them. So that's basically what we are going to do on today's session. So before starting, let me just show you how these files usually look like. So let me share my screen. To can see these three types. So the first one is JSON. Kind of looks like JavaScript. You'll be having an open brace, close brace, and setting up an indentation-based setup. So you can see it over here. Inside you have the user details, and inside user you have name, the location of that particular user, and inside that location you have the city, state, etc. So this is basically something that we are using to store that particular set of data. Similarly, like you can see that we are saving the same data in different types of files. So this is the JSON format that we use. And you can see, like inside user, you can see name and location, and inside location, you can see this close bracket and this open bracket and this close bracket basically denotes a particular object. So inside this location object, you have city, Austin, state, Texas, and similarly inside user, you have name and location. Okay, and the same thing you can see in the YAML. So when it comes to YAML, you have to remember a few things. Like whenever you're starting a new YAML file, you have to include these three hyphens that is required, that's mandatory. And similarly, when you are using YAML, you have to make sure to use these white spaces that you can see over here. That is basically that gap. When in case of JSON and XML, that's not required. This is something just we are using for indentation, for the other people to understand these kinds of, let's say, program. But in case of YAML, these white spaces are mandatory because it kind of has a, let's say, format like Python. Okay, so that white spaces is what actually denotes what comes inside which object. And similarly, in XML, you would be seeing something similar to an HTML file. So just like here, inside user, you have name and location. Here also, you can see inside user, you have name and location. And the data will be stored outside these tags, like between two tags. This is the open tag, this is the closed tag. And between that, you'll be able to see the data. Similarly, you can see here. Here you can see user is opened, user is closed. Inside that, you have your required data. So this is basically how the format looks like. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a small lab on from the basics. We'll start from what all kinds of tools we are going to use, how to use it, etc. So this is uh, kind of a VM. So I'm going to put it over here. So yeah, that's a VM. So in this VM, I'm going to show you how to use all these different types of data. Hope you guys can see this VM as well over here. Let me just see. Yes, it's visible. Okay, great. So yes, let's slowly start with that particular session. So in this, the first thing that we are going to do is prepare a development environment. So in that environment, we'll be creating and doing all our required actions and everything. And for the purpose of this lab, I've created some pre-setup files. So I think it's over here. Just give me a second. Yes, working directory. Okay, so you can see I created a YAML file, a Python file. So in this, I haven't added much coding that we are going to do right now. You have an XML file and we'll be having a JSON file as well. I'll show you that, no worries. So yes, let's go ahead and see what all kinds of tools we require for this particular session. The major thing, you already know, I mentioned, like we'll be doing a basic Python code. So doing Python, we need somewhere to write this Python code, right? So for our requirement, and something is which is already suggested by Cisco side, we'll be using the Visual Studio Code. So you can see this. So you can download this in your system as well if you want. Like if you want to learn a bit more about this Python coding, I would really recommend downloading Visual Studio Code because you'll be able to use it for other purposes as well, coding requirements, as well as writing your configuration files for different devices. This really helps. And if you're doing that, install Python 2 in your system. It really helps you with the your coding part for your Python. So let's open this Visual Studio Code. There we are. So in this Visual Studio Code, what we are going to do is we are going to open that particular site, sorry, that folder I just showed you. That is the working directory. Okay, and we are all the files that I require is already present over there, and I'll be showing all these files to you as well. So here, for doing that, you can use something called the Explorer. This is the Explorer. This is something that you do search. This is for debugging purposes. And here you have a source control requirement, something you use for Git requirements. And here, sorry, here we have the Git cleanse and extensions. So out of it, we won't be using all of this. The major things you need to know is your directory, that is your Explorer, and this debug. These two uh, will basically help you do most of your requirements over here. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna open the Explorer. Okay. Second. Open folder. And here I want to open this entire folder, not just a single file. So I'm just gonna click working directory. And yes, okay. Once I click that, the entire folder is opened. You can see it over here. That is working directory, and that entire folder is up. So most of our coding, everything we're going to do inside this lab 01. So I've added few comments over there which can also help you with understanding what all steps need to be added where, etc. Okay. So in this lab, we are going to use this lab01.py to basically read all our required different files, XML file, YAML file, and maybe a JSON file also. I'll show you that as well. Okay, so yes. So next, what we are going to do is we are going to start working with our Python file. Okay. So for opening that, all I have to do is just click over that particular Python file and you can see it over here. So let me see if I can just reduce the size. Okay, so here we are. Is there an option to expand this? I don't think so. Anyway, so yes. So I added like a few comments over here, which can basically helps you with what all comments need to be added where. And this file will also be uploaded to your labs as well, or I will send it to you via some link when you can download this same files. This is something created by me. So yes, let's go ahead and start. The first thing what I'm going to do is we have to see how this Python file works, right? We have to get an idea about what this Python file is, how to use this, etc. So the extension for Python file .py, like extension for XML, XML, YAML, YAML, and JSON is JSON. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is open this Python file and add a small uh, print function over there so that you can see that this particular code is working. Okay. So add print statement. So you can see over here, I added a comment. Yeah, so you can just add something. And another thing, major thing, just like in YAML, here also you have to make sure the indentation is right. Okay, so you can see the cursor is over here. So we have to move it towards the right location. Okay, the thing is like you have to use space for this. Never use tab when you're working with Python. If you are using tab, it won't work as much. You have to use space. So these are known as white space. Either for indentation purpose, you can use 2 white spaces or 4 white spaces. My suggestion is go for 4. Okay. So here I'm going to give my first command, that is print um, DevNet. I given my command. Okay. So after this, I'm just going to save this. Control S, saved. Now let's see the output. Okay. So these kinds of these print commands might also come out, but let's look at if this is coming out. Okay. So let's view. So you can either open the terminal of that particular system, or if you're already working with this particular VS Code, you have another option. You can just use the inbuilt terminal as well. So I'm going to use the inbuilt terminal. That is the inbuilt terminal. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have the inbuilt terminal, and we have to make sure that the command that we are giving is in the right folder. So because this Python file is in working directory, you have to make sure it's in the working directory itself. So you can see it already mentioned here, it's in working directory. But if you want to double check, you can just type in pwd, and you can see the location is mentioned over here, home student working directory. Okay, so you can see that. So next, what we are going to do is, before running this, I'm just going to create a virtual environment inside which we can run this particular lab. Reason being, we don't want any external aspects to interfere with our program. So for that purpose, we are going to just create a virtual environment for this. So you can download this directly from any browser. This is known as pip nb. For installing that, you can just give pip install pip nb, and it will be installed on your system. If you already have Python, that is. So I'm just going to use it over here. Pip environment. Okay, it's not coming up. 1 second. PIP, yes. PNB. Run. Sorry. Python lab01 dot py. That should work. So I'm creating a virtual environment, as you can see over here. And I'm running that particular. So you can see whatever I mentioned over here inside that print should be coming up. See, this is the command that we given over here, DevNet. So it got printed. And what else is coming is that just you can just leave those. It's these, what you see over here, that those were the ones that came back. So 1 second. Okay, I think I made some mistake. Fine, got it. So as you can see, the DevNet got printed. So this is basically how you use a Python code. You can just type in the name of that particular Python space name of that particular file dot py, and it gets executed. So next, what we're going to look is we have to use this virtual environment for our rest of the session, right? So I'm just going to take that particular virtual environment details from here. 1 second. For that, the command I'm going to use, you can see over here, pip environment -venv, that is virtual environment. So it basically gives me the path to that particular virtual environment. So I'm just going to copy this, Control C, and I'm just going to use my JSON file. So you won't be able to see the JSON file right away over here, but you can see this VS Code. So when you are using VS Code, you'll be also able to see this. So you can see this VS Code. I'm just going to click it over here, and I can see a JSON file, settings.json, also created by me. So you can see this Python path over there, right? That's where I'm going to give this particular address that we just received. And then I'm going to save it. So let's go ahead, add it over there. So like in case if you're wondering why we are using this commands and all, well, our major requirement is to read all these different kinds of files. Okay, like JSON, XML, YAML, etc. So this is some of the pre-steps that we have to do before starting with that. So I'm just going to paste it over there. Okay, something came up. Close it. 1 second. Okay. Paste. Okay, yep, that's fine. So it's saved. Yeah, it's saved. I use Control S and saved. So we did that. And okay, it's asking if I want to install linter. Yes, I need to install linter. So whenever something like that, those kind of pop-ups comes up when you're actually writing a code, go ahead and install it. Okay, the reason I'm saying this is because these are some suggestions that are coming from the VS Code, because it's reading all our codes on a live set, and it's basically trying to help us to providing us with different packages which we can use to, like set up or execute our code. Okay, I got a question from Ravi. Why are we using a virtual environment here? So the reason I'm using a virtual environment is because this is a practice that you can go ahead and use. The reason is like whenever we are setting up some kind of code or something like that, there will be multiple versions that you might need to use. For example, to work on a switch, you might need a particular version. To work on another server or a router, you might need an updated version. So if you want to install multiple dependencies on one single system, you have to put it either in a virtual machine, sorry, a virtual machine or a virtual environment, or in a different system. Okay, so if not, the only the latest version will be considered when we are using that particular application. So for this purpose, it is suggested use a virtual environment, use all your dependencies that you require for that particular function inside over there. Okay, so that it does not interact with any other application which is outside it. So that's why we are setting up a virtual environment. So this is a practice that you can follow, because whenever you're working, if not, what happens is that whenever you're working with some other system, maybe the latest version of Python or something might be used and it might not be supported on that particular system. Okay, I hope that is clear. So yeah, now we got PyLint installed. So let's leave that over there. Next, we can see the path is right. And what else? Second. And to work, yeah, we are going to add the configuration. 1 second. Debug, it's not shown. Just give me a second. I'm feeling. Start debug configuration. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Next, we are going to add like now we are working on a Python file, right? So we have to inform that to our IDE. So let's go to debug, add configurations, cannot read. Okay, not really sure why. Just give me a second. Okay, I'm getting. Yeah, I'm trying to do that right now. I'm trying to enlarge this VS Code because the screen resolution is a bit different. That's why. Let me just give me a minute, okay, guys? Nope, not working like that. Okay, anyway, try to look into this because I tried to increase the size, but not really working. Sorry about that. For the next session, I will try to make some other setup for this. Right now, please bear with me. So yeah, so for this, what you can do is you can go to debug. So like as I mentioned, add the configuration. You can click open configuration over here and add configuration, and then you can just mention Python. Sorry. Yeah, you can just add Python over there. I just added something else. That's why. Okay. Yep, that's work. It's open, closed, yep, fine. You can just click add configuration and type in Python. I already added it earlier. That's why I couldn't add it once again. So once you add that, right now you can see all this format. It's like all these files are completely formatted. I can see it over here as well. See, the lines, everything has been added over here. And then once this, we have set this up as Python, what happens is that whenever we are trying to add some commands or something like that, you will be automatically seeing some options. Depending upon your Python, it will be shown to you. Okay, so because of that, it will be much easier for the coding part of it. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, yep. Continuing. So, yes, as I mentioned, we added the configuration. Next, you can see a couple of other JSON files has also been added over there. And yes, next, what we're going to do is we're gonna start debugging this. So that's another thing that you can do in Python. Like when you're writing a code and all, you can use a debugging option. Right now, we don't have much things to debug over here, but at the same time, this is an option that you can use to identify any kinds of issues on your system and then add. No, no, what happened? Okay, maybe again, once it's added, I have to like restart this entire session. What you can just do is click on debug. Then you can just mention open configuration or add configuration. Since the screen is small, add configuration is not working. But on your screens, when you click add configuration, what happens is that you'll be getting a search bar. And on top itself, you'll be able to see Python. Just click on it. If not, you can just type in Python and click on the first one. Like there will be only one Python option over there, so no worries. Okay, it will be search bar. Just type in Python, add it. That's it. Maybe on our next lab, I can show that to you. I won't be doing any configuration and I can show that to you as well during the. No worries on that. Okay. Yeah. And for debugging purpose, you can just go to, debug and click start debugging. And that's something that basically runs your code and gives you an output if it's working, gives you warning, everything, etc. And if you want only to debug a partial code, maybe only up to this line number 15, you can just see this red. See, nothing is there. When I'm putting my cursor over there, you can see that red dot. Click on that, and now we added a stop point, kind of like a checkpoint. And if I'm adding, going to click debug, what happens is that it will do this code only up to this particular line. This code, everything will be considered and it will start to debug, but only up to that particular line. And then it will stop. Okay, so that's basically how you do that. And I can just click on this continue to do the rest of it. So like if I click on this continue, the rest of the commands, everything comes up. So you can see earlier this output was not there, but after I clicked continue, the rest that is basically from here, it started to execute the rest of those commands as well. So like if you want to remove that same that dot or that checkpoint, you can do that as well. All you have to do is take your cursor there, click once more, and it is removed. Okay. And so yeah, that's basically it for the debugging part. So I think we can start with actually doing our program. So these were the prerequisites, how you set up your system, everything, etc. So now we basically have all our files, our Python program ready, etc., etc., etc. So let's go ahead and start looking at this code. Like first, I'm going to work with YAML code. So you can see this is our second task. And similarly, I've had add others as well for JSON, XML, etc. So you can see uh, procedure 4 for XML, procedure 3 I've added for JSON requirements, etc. So we'll be working with all these different types of files. So let's first start with YAML file. Okay. Uh, so for that purpose, something I have to add is the YAML header. So for our Python to actually use this YAML files, you have to need some libraries and all, right? Python default, it won't be able to read how this YAML and everything is written. So for that purpose, what we are going to do is we are going to first install the PyYAML library in our system and then add it to our Python code as well. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is view and terminal and set up PyYAML over here. So let's see. The command will be pip environment install PyYAML. That is Python YAML, that's it. And I click enter and it's installing this Python YAML. Okay, now that's installed, all good. And after what I'm going to do is we have to use this YAML file inside our code. That is inside our Python code, right? So for that, what I'm going to do is add this import YAML header. So I'll just go to the top because you have to add the all the headers on the top. It's kind of rude. So here you can see import YAML. So I mentioned that now I'm importing that YAML directory onto our system. Okay. So Now what we can do is go back to our Explorer, and you can see this is the YAML file that we are going to read. Okay, so you can just see the format is right or not. Okay, you can just close this for now. Yes, so this is the format of our YAML file, just like the one you saw earlier. Just like a key value, that's it when it comes to YAML. Nothing else is required. And you can see inside address, you have street, multiple streets, so maybe for multiple users. And then you have first name, last name, birth date, everything. ID is 3242, Ray Smith. You can just remember these words because you'll be able to see the same thing in our terminal as well. So when we are trying to read this particular YAML file using our Python code. So first we have to write the Python code for that, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is we have to open this YAML file inside our Python. So let's go ahead and see that. So these were the earlier part of the program. Let's go to procedure 2, that is our YAML. Okay. So as I mentioned, the first thing we are going to do is open that user.yaml file. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So here, again, the cursor is over here. We have to move it using space. Four spaces. And here we are going to type in the command, or that function, that is the open function, with which we are going to open our YAML file. Okay, so the command is with open, and we have to mention the name of our file. So I'm just, usually you have to add the path, but since all of this, our Python file as well as, let's say, the YAML file is in the same folder, I just have to mention the name of that particular file. User.yaml. And now I'm going to open it as just read only because we are not going to make any changes over there. We're just going to read that particular file. Comma. So adding it as read only, that is R. And as string. So this is basically, okay, sorry about that. It should be outside. As stream. Okay, so that's done. Next, we have to load this data, like whatever data that we are opening. Like we open the file, now we have to take this data and put it into a, let's say, variable. Okay, so we are going to store all this data inside this file, that is our user.yaml, and we are going to put it into a, well, variable. So let's go ahead and do that. So this time we have to put it inside this file. Oh, sorry. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and again 1, 2, 3, 4. So the reason I'm added one more indentation is that we have to add this new command. This reading command should be coming only after we open this particular file. So it should be coming inside that. So in Python, we have to also make sure to add this indentation. Okay, so we're going to give the command for that. The variable I'm going to use is user-yaml equals. Now I want to load this particular value. Like this is our pointer. This pointer is loading toward, pointing towards this particular file. So using that pointer, I'm going to store all the data into user.yaml. So yaml dot safe load underscore. You can see it over here. You can just click on that, we add it, and I'm going to use the string. So yes, that's done. We have loaded the data into user.yaml. Okay. So now we have to determine what kind of an object is user.yaml. So now we have this variable. Now for printing, before printing that, we have to identify we're just, not a requirement, but it's good to know like what kind of data is stored inside that particular file if you're not already opened it. So for that purpose, we are going to see what we are going to use a type function to find out what kind of data is stored inside this YAML file. Okay. So, okay, I only mentioned that over here. Okay, I just mentioned the command. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead and do that. So to find out the type command, we can use, sorry, to find out the type of that particular variable, we can use the type command. So here you can see print uh, type of our variable name is user underscore YAML. User underscore YAML. So that's also added, right? So once that's done, let me just save. Let's try it out if it's working or not, right? So I'm gonna use debug, start debugging. Okay, so it's started. Mm, really? Okay, let's try it once again. Debug, start debugging. Okay, now it's coming up. Sorry about that. Just give me 1 second. So this is the XML part. Let's go to the YAML. So yes, this is YAML. So this is the first command that we used earlier, DevNet, and here you can see type of user YAML variable. So let me just show that to you here. It's here we are. See, print type of user YAML variable. That's what's being printed over here, types of user YAML variable. And right after that, we have mentioned we want to know what kind of data type this data is stored inside this particular YAML file. Not really sure why it's not working like that. 1 second. Yeah, here we have print type user YAML. So we mentioned to print what kind of data type this user YAML is, and you can see it's mentioned as dict, meaning it's a dictionary. And it's right, as you can see over here, this is a dictionary. We have a key value pair. That's basically how we store a dictionary data. Okay. Safe. Okay. I have another question. Why we are using stream and why using safe load? So stream, you can use stream or you can use any other value. Stream is just basically the keyword I use. So this is basically a pointer which points towards your file. Okay. So if you want to use some other keyword, you can use it. Just make sure that this keyword is nothing like not a pre-initialized key inside our Python. Like you can't use int, float, character, string, etc. Instead of that, you can use any other value for this. You can just mention FP, like file point or something like that. That's fine. No issues. So stream itself is not a required value. Okay. And safe load is just to make sure that all the data, there is no data loss in between. You can just load all the data from that particular file. And since this is a small data, only safe load is enough. For larger data, we will be using other options. We will see those probably in other labs as well. Okay, so that's why we use stream and safe load. Stream, not mandatory. Safe load, mandatory. Okay. So yes, as you can see, this is the output that we got. We got it as class dictionary. And next, let's go ahead and find out what kind of values everything is stored. So here you have all these key values. So this is basically the method that we basically used when you're working on an unknown file. Okay. So imagine that you don't know this user file. So first thing, we now know it's a dictionary. So before looking into the values, what we are going to look is what kind of values are stored. So for that purpose, what we use is we look into what kind of keys are used over there. Reason being, sometimes the number of values will be too much, whereas the number of keys will always be limited. Even though the number of keys and values seem same over here, what happens is that uh, there will be repetition, right? So because of that, number of keys are always less compared to the number of values. So let's go ahead and see how we can print out these different keys. So I mentioned, yes, here we'll be checking out how to look into these keys. So keys in the user YAML, this is same as we saw here before. This just gets printed out. Now let's just see how to actually print the keys inside that particular file. So for that, I'm going to use a for loop. Okay. So you can see over here, for key in user YAML. That's our like variable name. User underscore, sorry, underscore YAML. We have it over here. YAML. And inside that, I'm going to add print of key. Oh, so all the keys inside from that user YAML variable. So what data do we have in user YAML variable? All the data from user.yaml. Correct. So now let's go ahead and see if it works. I'm just going to Control S, save the data, and start debug. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we got the keys printed out. Yes. So you can see here, right after class dict, you can see all the keys inside our YAML has been printed. ID, first name, last name, birth date, address, score. So all these details, everything just got printed out. So that's our output. Okay. The output that we got for this for loop. So all the keys inside here, inside that YAML file, just got printed out over there. Okay. So next, what we can do, yeah, we can print out that entire data. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new instance uh, of a new value or an object called user. And inside that, I'll be storing all the data and I'll just print the entire thing. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So for that, you can see I've already mentioned we have to create a new instance of a class user. And as you can see, user space equals set user, it's a function. So created that. Next, what we are going to do is we already know what kind of keys are already present over here because we saw that earlier. We had ID, first name, last name, birth date, address, and score. So I want to print all these data. So for doing that, what I have to do is we have to provide these data, these values to different variables. So by using this user, I'm going to provide these values to different, uh, let's say, like basically all the values we have from earlier, we're going to put it into this object. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So user.id. So this will be where we store the ID value is equal to user underscore YAML of ID. Okay. So that basically means whatever data, this was our variable, and whatever data that was stored in the value ID or in the key ID will be sent to user ID, user.id, right? Okay. Similarly, I'm going to add all the data. User dot first underscore name equals user underscore of first name. The first name has been stored. Let's just make this faster. Next, we need a last name. What else? We had birth date, address, and school, right? I think it's much faster if I'm typing the school date, the dot address equals user underscore YAML of address. Yeah, it's actually faster. And what do we have next? Then final user dots for equals user. Okay, so now that's added. So we have added all the data that is mentioned inside our keys, like uh, all the details what we got from that key, we have added over here. Right. So let's open our terminal so you can see over here itself if you have any doubt. Okay. Yeah, first name, last name, birth date, address, and score. Those were the only data that we had. So we have added all of those. So let's go ahead and save this particular file. Sorry about the lag. From next day onwards, that won't be there, that I can show you. Okay, now that's saved. Now let's just go ahead and play this song. With debug. So, down. Okay, that worked. I'm just gonna click that debug once more. Don't click again. Okay, let's see. Yes, something came up. XML. So just below, sorry about that. You have DevNet, and you have all the keys from your YAML, which we printed earlier. Okay, we have, yes, we have a user object. So let's see if we got that printed out. Just 1 second, please. Missing it by, okay, so I think that didn't came out. Give me a second. We added all the details. Okay, we just took the details. Now we have to, print it out. My bad. Seems like there is some lag over here. Okay. Next, I'm gonna print all these values out. So use the four spaces. Right under print user object, I'm going to give print of user, and that's added. Now I have to save this once more. Sorry about the time, guys. Saved. Okay, next, let's try debugging once more. What should be happening is that all the data that we saw in user YAML, I mean user.yaml, should be printed out here. That's our required output anyway. Let's see how it comes out. Hey, it's working. Let's go ahead and see. So the new one came out. Let's see. So we had JSON right over there. Just maybe a couple of steps up. I mentioned print user, right? Yeah, it's added over here. So that's saved. Yeah, here we have the data. So ID 3242, first name Ray, last name Smith, birth date, date time details, address, all the details that we had in that user.yaml. We got it printed out over here. So this is basically the output that we were expecting. You can see, right? ID 3242, ID 3242, first name, Ray, last name, birth date over here, address, Royal Oak, all the details are here. So this right now I just showed you an example with the data, like some basic data of a particular person. Usually what we use this is to, let's say, if you want to automate working of a router or a switch, etc. Inside that system, we won't be able to do because those have limited capabilities. So we'll be having to send some kind of request from outside. Okay, so that will be sent as a payload, either like one of these files, YAML, JSON, XML, etc. So they will be having these format, like data will be stored inside that, like this format. We'll be using something for modeling purposes that's called YAN. We will be discussing about that. And what we basically do here is that this data will be sent over there, not this data. When we are sending it for that, what happens is that over there, we'll be mentioning data like what each of those ports should be doing, what kind of configuration should be added to this particular port, what kind of configuration should be added to our security requirements, what kind of password should be added to this user ID, or for entering config, we need another kind of password, etc. All these kinds of things we'll be configuring in that file, and we'll send that into this particular switch or router, etc. And we'll be using a Python code to, execute it over there. So by doing that, what happens? We can create a Python code which automatically executes and take care of all this work without a person required to that. If that's not the case, what needs to be done is that there should be a person, he should be accessing that particular console and add all these different data manually. So these kind of configuration files and everything we are using for these kinds of configuration purposes, or to push a particular command, or to push a particular service onto a server. All these kinds of requirements will be using files such as YAML, XML, JSON, etc. YAML mostly used for configuration requirements. Communication requirements will be using mostly JSON or XML by using different concepts like netconf, restconf. Again, some of the major topics that are going to come inside our sessions. So anyway, today the time allotted to us is almost over, like it's already done. So what we are going to do is from next day onwards, we'll start with the theory, but I'll try to make it a bit more interactive than just boring theory than our last session. I think there was a few feedbacks, like I was discussing through slides. No worries, that's fine. What I'm saying is, from next day onwards, I will try to make it a bit more interactive, and I'll try to use a bit more real life examples to, give you a better idea. So this, I hope you guys got a small idea. I'm not asking you to get the codes right away. Not gonna happen. I'm good with that. What I want is that at least you got the idea that how we are reading these particular values from this YAML or XML files. The same process we'll be repeating for other YAML and XML. Only difference is that in this case we called or set up a YAML library. For others, we'll be setting up XML or JSON based libraries. That's it. And we basically will be using similar commands to take the data and print them out. Okay, so these are the different types of file types that we are going to be using like throughout our entire session. So yeah, that's it for actually today's session. Any doubts regarding this session, please go ahead and you can go ahead and ask. Okay, guessing not. So in that case, we'll be winding up for today. Hope to see you all tomorrow, or not tomorrow, sorry, Monday, 9 o'clock. We are like this. We're just starting with the session. What we discussed till now is just the basics. Once this is starting up, it's gonna get a lot more interesting. We are going to discuss topics like chat ops and everything. So okay, guys, see you all on Monday. Not gonna make you sit more since it's a weekend. So have a good weekend. See you on Monday. Bye then.